Hey, friends. Welcome to Mind Your Lens, the podcast. Here for all things considering the way you are perceiving your life, the way you are viewing your reality. And what's funny is that we come from a malleable reality, meaning that the way we think about things can change over time. And today, I have a very special guest that's going to help us see the journey, a journey that we can take from away from things like anxiety and depression towards more things like peace and purpose. So we are welcoming Coach Krystal Rose to the podcast. Krystal
Hello.
is a rapid transformation therapy practitioner and transformation coach, specializing in rewiring the mind and body for lasting change. Hey, Krystal.
Hi, Aubrey, and hello, everyone listening or watching. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited that you're here. And I just remember when we first connected, it must have been like 2020, 2019?
2019, I think.
2019. Yeah, and we met each other through Herbiculture Yoga Studio,
Yeah.
and we went on a couple walks. And I remember when we were going on our walks, I was so inspired by the way that you're a world traveler and you've been done all these giant explorations of your life, and then you've also done a lot of inner explorations too. So I think just for a moment, go ahead and take the mic and share with the listeners how you came to the space that you are in right now with your mindset, and maybe how that, I like when you talk about how even exploring around the world kind of didn't solve all the things. And so go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you, Aubrey. And I'm so glad we started with travel because it certainly has been a huge catalyst to change. And I recommend traveling, especially solo traveling, to anyone listening as a catalyst for growth and adventure. But my journey, I suffered with depression, anxiety, and insomnia starting at 14. At least that's when they started diagnosing me of chronic, which means you'll have anxiety and depression forever, is basically what they told me. And so when I got an opportunity in my early 30s, late 20s, I started traveling for work, and early 30s, I just started doing it on my own. I was definitely on a quest looking for answers. And since being diagnosed at such a young age and being told prescriptions were the only thing that I would take to help, and they weren't helping, my quest was definitely looking for something that would give me happiness and peace, from relief from the depression. And I didn't really have a lot of tools and knowledge in my tool belt at the time when I started. I've always been into self-development, starting in my early 20s. I really wanted to change who I was and how I showed up. And personal development was the first thing that came into play with that. But it wasn't seeming to click. Like, it made sense and I could see myself implementing it. I even started teaching it. Different self-development, self-health mentality and tools. But it wasn't clicking. And so when I started traveling on my own, I was definitely like, this is it. I'm going to see how the rest of the world lives, and my bubble is going to be bursted intentionally. And while that did happen, there was a lot of realizations of how people, the similarities, doesn't matter which country you're in, that people will have, and then the ways that they were raised and the cultural differences, just the mentalities at different cities. Like, it really got me thinking and expanding my overview. But the original problem, the depression, anxiety, insomnia, self-sabotaging, all those things were still there. So looking externally wasn't helping the cause. And it did give me a lot of inspiration. You know, I definitely was in my, I want to be a travel blogger era for a bit. And luckily, none of that happened because my focus was really meant to be on helping the depression and insomnia and anxiety that I was experiencing. And so while I had many great adventures that I could bring back new versions of myself back to the reality, I left behind, I still needed the answers to what was going on with me, and the only way to find them was to look internally instead of externally.
All right, thank you for sharing that. That reminds me of that quote that wherever you go, there you are. And the realization that you had, you can go anywhere in the world, but that original root problem was still there, depression, anxiety, insomnia. And then so what? You go on all these travels and you come back home and you're still sitting with yourself, which I love your realization that, hi, that's the path that you needed to go on to be the coach that you are now, helping people move through those. Did you already know that? Did you already know and embody the idea of being a coach? Or is that something that you perceived over time as you went on this journey?
So during this journey, or yes, I did want to be a coach. I've always wanted to help people. That is something that was just in my upbringing. So it was always an inclination or innate skill. Like, yes, I want to help. And part of the traveling I did were mission trips, bringing food and water and supplies. So it was definitely a natural transition over into coaching. I actually was coaching during this time, and it actually led me to feeling like an imposter because I'm trying to help people and give them these tools that I know are either proven or they've been working for someone else, and I felt like they could work for me, but it wasn't sticking. So I was actively pursuing being a coach during this time of me also intentionally looking for this healing. And that also kind of pushed me to the edge of I need to figure out the root cause of this. And when I started traveling, I didn't recognize at the time that just leaving your reality doesn't put you into a new one. You are wherever you go, there you'll be, because we're the ones creating our reality. And so for me, my path, I had to spend all this money and literally go around the world to learn that, I need to stop and just look inward, and that's where the fixing needs to happen. So, yes, to your question, I was actually on the path of being a coach, which led me to you and the work we do in NLP. The coaching itself helped me to realize that there is a path to self-improvement, but what actually showed me what those tools or the way was my, was it called Dark Night of the Soul, or, going into the deep places that were inward and pushing through that part of my life.
Yeah. You said a really good quote. You said, just because you leave your reality doesn't mean you'll find a new one, or however you said it. And I thought that was so clever, because you're right. We tend to follow ourselves wherever we go. And even if it means that you're just going to leave your town or leave for a trip, you're still in the realm of your own mind. And I think it's okay, because I resonate with this too, that there was a lot of crossover for quite a few years with me not being in my healed potential and me being a coach. I mean, there were so many years overlapping where I had my eating disorder and I was coaching health and fitness, and there was a lot of that going on. And I think I want to reiterate that, because I do want, if you're listening to this and you need a little bit of that permission, like, it's okay that you're not fully healed before stepping into the leader that you want to be. Because quite frankly, that is the way to get to more healed. Yeah. And I like that underlying pressure where you're like, okay, well, now that I'm a coach, I better get my shit together even more. And it gives us that fire to go even deeper within and ask ourselves, well, what is the ultimate root cause that comes from this? And I know you do rapid transformation therapy, which is all about the root cause. So when you found that methodology too, and with NLP, how have these two foundations now helped you help other people?
The root cause is everything I found in my path. So when we turn to Western medicine, and I'm not knocking what our Western practitioners do, there's a lot of hard work and science that goes behind that. But a lot of the tools that Western medicine provides is to manage or mask the symptoms. And that's all that I was receiving. And that's all I learned how to do was mask symptoms, cope. And there are healthy ways to cope and there are non-healthy ways to cope. But if I really want to stop feeling this way or I want something to change, I have to find the root cause. At least at certain stages. Eventually you get to a point where it doesn't matter the root cause, you have more control over your mind and body and you can do it more rapidly. But at this part of my journey, finding the source of it was imperative. So root cause therapy or rapid transformation is one way to find the root cause. I use several different modalities to unearth different sources for different things over time. When I work with the client or when I was going through this type of therapy myself, being guided into my own subconscious mind to identify the source. It's usually an experience that we received or we witnessed, and then we process it with our model of the world. And so I grew up very sheltered. I was raised by a parent who was very fear-based. And so all I knew was fear-based thinking. And so in my model of the world, I was just surrounded by fear and I only knew what I knew. So when I process something, if you think about it, I'm 4 or 5 processing an event with my 4 or 5-year-old mind who has not really been out into the world, has any life experience. And then I'm creating this belief based off the perception or the experience that I have. That belief is becoming my core programming. And so 20 years later, I'm operating as an adult, 30 years, 50, 60 years operating as an adult, where if I did not pay attention or if I didn't go and do any rewiring, reprogramming, reprocessing of the original beliefs, I could essentially be having 4-year-old beliefs run my entire life, or beliefs I created at 4 years old. So when I did this root cause therapy, I was finding the beliefs that I had created as a young child and seeing it from that lens that I had. And when I do that, I'm able to kind of switch back and forth between the old lens and the new lens. And I get to make a choice of whether or not I want to keep that belief. Because at one point, that belief was serving me. And eventually, at some point it stopped. And so that process of identifying the root cause coupled with, okay, well, how do you want to deal with it now? Do you want to let that belief go? Do you want to keep the belief? Is it serving you? That gives me back control, gives me back freedom, gives me back peace. It really helped to remove all the things that were holding me back, keeping me depressed. So root cause therapy has been instrumental in my life in making the significant changes, and I'm so happy to be able to bring it to other people.
Yes, I agree. I love everything you just said. Was so well worded and so graceful and so permissive of us to be in that space in between. I like how you said you jump back and forth between the two perspectives, because when we grow this awareness of self-development and all of these techniques that we talk about with NLP and rapid transformation therapy and root cause therapy, we grow this sense of questioning ourselves and questioning, is the experience I'm having right now one that I want to continue to have? Or is it one that's infantile, that was grown when I was just a little girl? And, I just think it's so funny because as you were talking, this came up in my reality last week. I went to a speaking event and there was another young blonde speaker there, and automatically, right, I have previous conditionings of insecurities, self-worth issues, and so all of that gets lit up because there's now competition in the room idea. And then I trace that back in my mind, and I'm literally sitting in the back of the room like, why am I feeling this? What is this? I know it's not real, but I know I'm really feeling it right now. And so how do I move through this in my mind? And when I cut it back to the root causes, I got this vision of me playing, it must have been kindergarten or first grade, and it was at this certain playground. And it was like a belief was put in me that there's competition in the world. And so in that moment, I got to go through an experience in my brain where I deframed the competition to that there is no competition. Like you can have two great speakers in a room and that's it.
Yeah.
And it helped me break free from that old belief. But like you said, I was holding both of them and kind of jumping back between the fourth, like trying to validate the insecurities that I was feeling. And then logically, as a grown adult, processing it while holding space for the little girl. And this is what we talk about in NLP and all of these processes is you're matching your subjective experience with the one that you want, not the one that's just the programming that's been there.
I
Yeah.
I love that. You're programming with you're selecting the ones that you want.
Yeah.
This whole process, so I love this experience of you recognizing like, hey, I'm feeling a certain way. Let me figure out where that's coming from. Going through the process and then like, oh, well that we don't do that anymore. If we can this can be right as well. That has become so much fun for me. I don't know about you, but it's because we're going to get emotions anyways. We're going to get these little triggers, and that's the fun part of life now. It's like, oh, what do I get to work on next? So coming up with something like, why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling jealous? And going through, and I've gotten to a point where if it's coming from my younger, like inner child, the 5-year-old, or if it's coming from the teenager, I'll have talks with them. I'm like, oh, sweetie, we don't do that anymore. Just like, that's not what we do anymore. You come over here and sit down. Like I'm not taking over for now. And it's really, it's creating a sense of peace in my life that I know that I have this type of control where I don't have to let these emotions take over. And I don't have to feel guilty about having these emotions because I don't want to judge people or be competitive, in this sense. So I feel bad. Now that completely takes it away. So this process that you're talking about is something that I do a lot in my life and work with my clients, and it's become really fun.
Yeah, I love how you use the word we too, presupposing that there's, dual identities and dual mindsets that are holding space in conversation with one another, but it's just you and your thoughts. But it's true because the we is part of you that is that old way of being that's just kind of processing the moment, and then part of you is the new, logical, self-developed, healed self that is able to implement all of these techniques and bring about a better situation. And you do have to hold space for both. And I think, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there's one of them where he says the way to enlightenment is to hold two opposing beliefs at the same time without judgment and see them both and respect them both.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best ways to elevate ourselves and elevate our consciousness, because we're giving grace to old beliefs and then holding space for newer, better ones.
Yeah. And that helps with how you also receive other people. Because if you can understand that it's okay to have two opposing beliefs, or it's okay to understand that the old version of you is still showing up, then when you interact with someone else who maybe has a countering belief that you do, you can, maybe not agree, but you can at least have no judgment or less judgment. You could try, but
I was like, this is so good. And keep going.
No, that's So if I can first teach myself how to not judge my beliefs, and to also know that I have the flexibility to change my belief because I am not the same person who created that first belief, then I could also bring that to friendships, relationships, colleagues, political parties. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Back in the day, I used to be a little more, the word intolerable comes up. Like people used to be intolerable. Like I used to have a hard time, quote unquote, dealing with people. And it created a lot of separation between me, and this is like in my early 20s, right? Between me and others. But it was only because I was so rigid and hard on myself to be a certain way, that I wouldn't hold space for others to be like the beautiful beings that are different in every moment that you meet them. And so you are exactly right that when we do hold more space for ourselves to be flexible, emotional, different, that we can change, we do allow people to go through their experiences now too. And just being a coach, I have at least 20 sessions per week now where I'm working with people, and you just see the beautiful ways that they are moving through their emotions and their experience. And I work for a company now, and sometimes people are a little bitchy and or a little like pissed off, but it's not at me. And so I don't take it personally, because I just understand that they're processing a situation, and that the emotion that they are experiencing is for them, and it's for helping them find their way in the journey. And it just makes me it makes me a better coach.
Yeah.
You to understand this idea, because you don't take things personally when clients have outbursts of emotion, and you're able to navigate it and help them lead themselves to a more empowering state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to be able to see it in both yourself and bring it to your clients, but also when being able to recognize like, oh, I'm not going to take it personal. And this process of giving yourself, analyzing or allowing yourself to analyze both or every opinion you have without judgment. It first starts within you, right? Same thing with love. Like, you want other people to genuinely love you. You have to genuinely love yourself first. You want people to respect you, and you have to respect yourself first. So I love how this figuring out that if we want things externally to be a certain way or to have more peace in the external environment, it has to come from within first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. I want to go back probably about 10-ish years, because 10 years ago, I had been diagnosed with depression, but I had never heard of this word. Like, I remember in 2016 was when I found the word anxiety, when I started to hear that word and then self-identify it as something that I had been experiencing based upon what I was reading, what I was hearing about it. But when I was younger, it's so interesting to look back on some of the behaviors I had when I was in my teenage years and early 20s, because now I know that word anxiety, and that's exactly what was happening in both a social sense, a personal sense, everything. But did you have that word anxiety back then, or how did you relate to the experiences you now know were anxiety?
Yeah. I think it goes back to at least 15 or 16 years old. So it's quite a bit a while ago. And I'm turning 40 this month, or this year. So it's like, it's been some time. So it was a long time ago. And I was told I had anxiety because of the body language that I was giving. I was very jittery all the time. If someone was talking to me, I was very anxious and couldn't stop my body from moving. And so someone pointed out, why are you acting so anxious? And I was at a time where labels were so important. In middle school and high school, labels are everything, because you're trying to figure out who you are. You want to fit in, and then all of a sudden you don't want to fit in. And, it's a very crazy time. So when a doctor gave me a label, that stuck. And so I experienced anxiety very young. The anxiety changed over the years depending on what was happening in my environment. Before, through grade school, life was very chaotic. I was very hypervigilant about things. So that's really what generated the anxiety. In addition to what was going on in my head. Very fear-based, not trusting the world, not trusting myself thing. And then we get older and we throw on responsibilities and bills and relationships. And so those types of anxieties came about. And I, in the 20s, would drink. So not an alcoholic, but definitely a substance, like an alcohol abuser. And anything that had alcohol in it. And I had all the prescriptions. So yeah, I'm still very surprised with how quickly doctors would give me prescriptions. I would just stockpile them in my cabinets. So all of these things made the anxiety worse. So I struggled with anxiety for a very long time,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
How do you mitigate the anxiety now?
So now I very rarely get feelings of anxiety. And that was through all the very intentional mind body rewiring that I did, or the process that I do. And I call it neurosomatic rewiring.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it's really a combination of, we can do subconscious therapy. Rapid transformation therapy is subconscious therapy. Very, very essential. But if I was to work with a client like me, we could uncover the root cause. But I also had 20 years of anxiety stored in my body. And my body's very used to, I would wake up, and as soon as I recognized I was waking up, my body would, I couldn't breathe, chest felt very heavy, I would shake. That was me every morning. And it was like I was just anxious to be alive. And going to sleep, it got better the last 10 years, but going to sleep, I'd have to drink between a fourth bottle of NyQuil and take some sleeping meds in order to sleep the whole night. Like I had to be really hardcore sedated. So if I got sleep, it was just the anxiety keeping me awake, essentially. So if I got sleep, I'd wake up and it'd just come back again. So it was kind of like an ongoing cycle. Now, if I experience any anxiety, I'm just like, oh, what's that? Let me figure out, what am I anxious about? Because now it's very rare, and I welcome the anxiety because I realize now it's just a way to tell me what's going on with my mind and my body, what needs to be addressed. So now I see it, I recognize it, I'm like, okay, thank you. And then you can go away now. I'll figure it out what the problem is. So I don't feel it that often anymore. I also don't take any prescriptions. I don't take medications. I don't really take any type of substances at all, even recreationally. I'll take, maybe occasionally I'll have a drink, here and there, but that's about it now. So anxiety has been fully dealt with and managed. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That's what I really love about a lot of these practices that we're talking about. Rapid transformation therapy, neurolinguistic programming. It is completely sober work. Like you are doing this stuff just in the realm of thinking. And that's why the podcast is called Mind Your Lens. Because when you think about the lens you are looking through, then you can really do something about it. And what you're talking about is completely rewiring the nervous system. So you're having different responses to life. So even if you go through an experience that induces anxiety, what used to be like a whole panic attack of anxiety and not being able to sleep and having to sedate yourself with different things, now it's okay. How do you do that sober work and rewire things in there so that when anxious situations happen, it's not a prolonged emotional experience? It's like, okay, here's anxiety. And you're like, what is this anxiety? Let me figure out what the root cause of this. And then when you have that, your nervous system literally shifts and you wake up in the morning with different experiences than you used to. So that's wonderful. And this is how you get over all this shit that you experience, is to go into the realm of the root.
100%. And it's not easy to go into the realm of the root, which I love that. That's got to be, someone's going to use that for their business. That's a great name. It is not easy. It was hard going in the direction. What made me not touch the bottle and basically pick up a journal to like process these thoughts took a real act of, I can't live this way anymore. And so it's just nonstop pain. So if I'm going to feel pain anyways, let me feel the pain that actually gets me over and through it. And
ooh, that was good. Yeah.
And that's that really helped. And I'm going to circle it back to NLP. I'm a huge fan of NLP. I'm a huge fan of you, Aubrey. And the reason is, I think all of these modalities that I used for the root cause therapy, was the success of that was really amplified by NLP, by training, me receiving your training years before, and getting my mindset to already start making those shifts. So when I would come across a perception or belief that I created, and I could see the model of the world that I created that lens with, and I felt it all, but then I can go in, like going back and forth, seeing myself, the 5-year-old, seeing myself now, I can go back and acknowledge, I'm like, sweetie, that was so painful. And I'm talking to my 5-year-old, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but oh my God, you're so strong. But you don't have to do that. Like, I could have these conversations and believe what I was saying, because all it took was a shift. And NLP really helped me to train my mind to see different lenses, even if I didn't grow up with them, even if they weren't ever my model of the world. Like, I started looking for different shifts, and I was more open to accepting a shift, and that, I think, is what really helped me to make all these modalities work.
So good. I received that compliment fully, and my mind
Good.
remembered this moment in the very first NLP training I did in 2020 on my own, and it was the second night, and we were
It was
talking about value.
2019 though, wasn't it? 2019?
2020, September 2020.
Oh wow, wow, okay.
I
Go.
know, a little bit later.
Yeah.
Um, it was the second day of training, and at night we had been talking about values, and I just remember this so vividly. It's like we were in the room, and we were all sitting down. It was a really nice vibe, and we went into a deep talk about values and values rules. And you had raised your hand across the room, and you started talking about it and holding space for, like, oh, we can do this. Like, it's that easy, right? We make the rules of the game. And that's where we all discussed, if you make the rules, you will win every time. And that quote, if you make the rules, you'll win every time, I say every time I train values now. And it comes from the conversation that you brought to the room at that NLP seminar. So I'm like, wow, it's so
Yay,
cool
I
how we take
helped.
these things.
Yeah, that was so
And it's
good.
true. It's like, how do we create the rules now to support our systems and support our mind in a way that makes life better? And like you said, it's difficult work. I mean, it's not easy. And when you get down to it, it's quite simple. Like, change it if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does, because it's hard at first, but when you actually have a few times of, oh, I could just shift it and accept it, it then becomes a lot easier. And I now feel that I know I live in a different reality than when 2020 for sure. But that my reality is always changing, right? Because we're always creating, but I have a different foundation of what I'm creating from. And one, being open to the fact that my model of the world can keep shifting. That's an important thing too. I have recognized that we should learn a core value. So first thing we do when I work with clients is, like, let's go over the core values. And a lot of people learn so much about themselves just through that one exercise. The second thing is, once they have their values, I tell them to check in with them from time to time, because now, if they start living a life aligned with their values, and they start doing this inner work, and maybe they did an RTT session, and maybe they're doing yoga, and they did Aubrey's class, well, now they're a different version of themselves. So a little check-in with, does those values still align with this version of you? Most of the time it's yes, and sometimes it's like, you know what, that's not as important to me anymore as it used to be. And I'm like, great. Then it's changed. It's like, it can change. Just like, yep, absolutely. Because you've changed as well. So I I love values, because values will, if you forget everything else that I ever talked about in a coaching session, just remember the values, and that will
Yeah.
help guide you to live a life in alignment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, back in when I first started learning NLP, I remember doing a values elicitation, and it was like growth, challenge, power were my values. And now I'm like, Aubrey, you don't need to show everyone the world. You don't need to show the world that you're so strong. Like, challenge doesn't need to be a huge part of your life anymore. It can be ease and flow, a little bit
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
I love that. And you're right. We know it reminds me of the quote by my friend Ember: humans are like songs, never sung the same way twice. And it's one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard somebody say, because it's so true. If we're in a malleable reality, we can constantly shift out of shift form and be a completely different person than we were. And nobody needs to know. And if people hold on to you, this is the issue with family sometimes, is because they hold on to the version that you used to be. I mean, I still have some family members. I went through like a little vegan vegetarian phase for like 5 years when I had a massive eating disorder. And they still, it's been 12 years now, and they're still asking me some years if I'm vegan. And I'm like, no, I haven't been for over a decade. Why are you holding on to the version of me as a child? Like,
Yeah.
why are you still doing that? And I think a lot of family members do that because that's just who they've known us as. And when the belief switched in my brain to allow my friends to be a completely different person, you start to hold space for the different versions of your friends that come through your life. And you're like, oh, this person's completely different than they used to be. And
Yeah.
then change work makes the change work.
Yeah. I love that. Now when I see people like, God, you're so different, I'm like, thank you.
We're supposed to change,
Yeah,
said the
we're supposed to. Thank you.
butterfly. Beautiful. Okay, so I want to go into like this idea of depression. What is, I know this is kind of a big question, but what is depression to you? And what do you think caused depression in your life?
Yeah, it's funny because you'll look up what's the definition of depression, and it has a very specific definition. But since you're asking what's my definition, I heard this. This is full of quotes today.
Yeah.
Depression is just suppression. That really resonated with me when I heard that years ago, because it absolutely was. I just didn't know that I was suppressing, or what it was I was suppressing. So the depression is something, it's not you just feeling sad. There's a difference. It's more of a continuation of where, yes, you feel sad, but mostly you feel empty and hopelessness. You don't have
Yeah.
any hope, and you don't have any desire, and you don't have any, you have difficulty finding enjoyment in anything. So depression for me was very a confusing time, because I've felt the depression, but I also was in survival mode. And survival and depression both came from childhood upbringing. And I talk about this now, and I won't share too many details, just out of respect for my family, because they're wonderful people. Is just understanding that our parents are also people too, and they were once children, and they had their own beliefs programmed into them, and they had their own experiences. And so when they grow up and they have children of their own, they're projecting, their experience. So I'm not mad at my parents, but at the time experiences happened where I felt unsafe. The belief I created was I am not safe, and no one is safe, basically. So that, I know for sure that was one of the root causes when I uncovered that. It wasn't the event or experiences that happened to me. It was the belief that came out of those things that really traumatized me for my life, and caused me to have, because I had this I can't trust anybody, I can't trust myself mentality. I manifested just more chaos coming in and out of my life, more untrustworthy people coming in and out of my life. And I also had the desire to survive. So in that environment, I learned survival skills. I learned how to be adaptable and flexible. I was bullied a lot in elementary, middle school. And so I learned to conform to
You
be
were
hit.
bullied. What were you bullied
Oh my
for?
gosh, I was bullied. Yeah, in elementary school, I was bullied over. I was 5'9" at 11 years old.
I was like, it must have been being tall.
It was definitely tall, but I was also very awkward. I didn't have the social skills that the other kids have. Now I see it as a pro. Like I don't need I didn't learn how to be a sheep earlier on,
Yeah.
but sorry, that's rude. I shouldn't have said.
Well, there
Sorry
is
to all the
this,
sheeps.
there's this word that people identify to, there's like the other word NPC, non-player character, and you're right, it is a weird hierarchical word. However, I mean, I think I was a sheep to like some of the societal beliefs about makeup and all that stuff. Like I used to wear makeup to the gym, so there are some ways where it's okay. Like I identified as being a sheep
Yeah,
until I broke free from it. So, but that's nice of you to put that in and be like, I don't know if I like that
I
word, but you know what I
yeah,
mean.
I don't mean to be rude because I know a lot of people are find safety in that. So sorry, I don't mean to say negative. I definitely tried to be. I was just that awkward that I couldn't even fit in. So maybe there's a projection of being angry. I was ejected by sheep. No.
There you
Um,
go.
so the wait, what was the question?
Let's see, what were we talking about? We were talking about just depression and now moving into the space of giving your, oh yeah, I asked you why you were bullied. That was
Oh
the
yeah,
question.
yeah. So bullied. I was just very awkward and an easy target.
Yeah.
And I learned
Fascinating.
how to make friends with my bullies. So they were kind of more like they turned into like frenemies. Like if they were having a bad day, I definitely was the one they ragged on. But I was also physically beat up a lot in elementary and middle school. Yeah. When I got to high school, that changed because we don't have to wear uniform. Like I could wear clothes that fit me because I was always wearing high water stuff. Like I was easy target. That's all I could say. Super easy target. And I joined cheerleading. It was kind of like I blossomed late.
Yeah.
But by then I'd already been bullied, and I did the first year of high school as trying to fit in. I was homecoming princess and cheerleading team and good grades, AP classes, and then something just snapped and I said, F all this, like none of this matters. I definitely hit the teenage years pretty hard. So yeah, the mixture of bullying, the not feeling safe, I gained all these skills to be adaptable and survive. But at a certain point, it was getting really hard to just survive, and that's when the diagnosis of depression and anxiety and insomnia started happening.
It's like we're the sum total of the experiences that we have. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us in our 30s that are looking back, like to hear that situation now that you came from a space of being bullied. I'm like, wow, we really don't know the depth of people's experiences. And so it is so important to hold space for just people to, what's that word? Sonder is the word that means everyone has an entire world and subjective experience that's different than yours. And you never know what somebody's been through until you sit down and you hear their story. And
Yeah.
so even hearing things like that, I'm like, well, yeah, it makes sense that you had this state of depression and anxiety when you were younger, when the sum total of your experiences like led to that. Then there's this huge turning point that we get to make of what are you not gonna stand for anymore,
Right.
and how do you remove depression from your life and change the wiring of your body so that you don't have those deep states of melancholy or numbness. And I remember so many years ago I wore it as a shield of armor that I had not cried in 8 years. And now
Wow.
that I look back on it, I'm like, girl, you were numb. Like, you were numb and you were
Yeah.
sad. Like, that's what it was. You didn't
Yeah.
have emotions. And now, I'll scroll through TikTok and I'm able to cry and tear up. And I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm so grateful that I get to feel emotions now, because for so many years, I think it was easier to be numb than to be really sad. So I held this weird line of being just
Yeah.
kind of neutral about everything.
It's impressive what the body can do, and what you thinking that's strong. I had a client who I gave her a challenge to cry because she also hadn't cried in a few years. She couldn't remember the last time. And I said, look in the mirror, stare at yourself until you cry. And so she tried a few days, nothing. And I remember she called me and she was crying. And I said, what's going on? She's like, well, I just dropped off my son for his karate. I'm in the car. I have an hour. I caught a glimpse of my eye. Like, I looked at myself in the mirror and I just started crying. She's like, and now I can't stop. And I'm like, well, this is a good thing. And she's like, but I can't stop.
Yes, it is. It's a literal breakthrough when you
Yeah.
finally release whatever resistance you had to crying and receive it and accept it, and then you see yourself in a deeper way. And so, yeah, that was probably very exciting. Now she probably looks back at that moment as being really impactful and beautiful.
It was. I think that was a change for her to see. I think what she got out of it was she's been trying to be so strong for so long, and it has resulted in physical problems. I was listening to one of your other podcasts, and you were talking about your health experiences and how it's not a coincidence that it's in the same area that where you struggled with challenges with speaking your voice and standing out. And I am pretty lucky when I look at myself and thinking of all the things that I've gone through, and I feel that I got away pretty unscathed health-wise, to be honest. And because that's normally with what I processed, I should have a lot more things, with my body. So it's very important to make that when you start to say, okay, I want to start changing. I want to start changing either my thoughts. I'm starting to pay attention to my reality, that I'm having this awareness. Things aren't feeling right. I'm not happy with how I process things, how I handle things. And then start moving into awareness, into action. Action is where you start to release. So yes, we find the root cause. Then there's a lot of releasing that has to happen. And then there's, let's find some more root cause. Let's do some more types of therapies. And it's kind of a longer than expected process. I remember one of the journeys where I did plant medicine, and then I met with you afterwards, and you're like, oh, how's your integration going? I'm like, integration? What's that? It's like, that's the most important part, is the working through. And so for those of you who don't know what integration is, or integration coaching or work, after you've gotten some awareness or insight, whether it's at therapy or an experience that you had or some sort of holistic sacred medicine that you used, to process it. And what I love about NLP in the integration process is to starting to use those techniques to see what we process or what our insights were, looking at that from different lenses. And I want to give a piece of advice that really helped me out, because I was doing a lot of my inner work alone, and then I would go out and meet wonderful people who could bring me more insight on how to process things. But NLP helped me a lot with my own integration work. And I visualized a lot my higher self of how she would think, act, who I'm trying to be. This person, this higher self, is my hero, my mentor, and something that I aspire to be. And the great thing is, she's not a $50,000 coach. She's built in. Actually,
Yeah.
she's a $100,000 coach, because that's what I spent on all this work. But she's internal, and I can talk to her whenever I want. And this version of myself, her job or her skill is seeing the different frames and seeing the different future, and posing things to me in a way that I can interpret with the lens that I have right now. She's very smart.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So going back to kind of all the topics that we've been covering with root cause and NLP, I think in our transformation process that you and I have gone through, we've had different activators where we had to make a decision. Like, look, I'm going to figure this out. I'm curious what yours was, like your turning point.
Oh, I've had a couple, but the one that came in my brain right now is I was 18 years old and I was on the ground of my like playroom at the house, and I literally in my brain I was like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And my thoughts said that. And that's when I was so deep in an eating disorder, so deep in like the lowest self-worth. I remember writing in notebooks how ugly I was, and it was just a weird turning point for me because the I got there. Like not the I, but the EYE, my third eye, broke free in that moment and was like, wait a second. If I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, if I am sick and tired of being sick and tired, if I am, then I can do something about this, maybe, can't I? And the driver of the bus like hopped in and was like, okay, now what? So that was a really big breaking point for me. But the other one didn't come until I was probably, I mean, the more recent one came when I was probably 28 after, a couple of years of NLP, where I remember doing an NLP process and I saw the root cause. It was a timeline process, and it brought me back to a ballet class when I was like 4, and I remember having judgment upon my body. And then I realized like, oh, that was the moment that I started being mean to my body and having body dysmorphic thoughts. Like I was so young and I had that for so many of my years. But then when I realized that, I was like, I wasn't born like this. And I saw the moment that it first got there. And so by presuppositions, if there was a moment that it got there, there was a moment prior where that wasn't there. And so if there were moments prior where I didn't have those kind of beliefs, that means that it's not ingrained in me and I can let go of that belief. Mm-hmm. And it brought me into this kinesthetic breakdown where I went outside and I cried for 2.5 hours, just bawling like your client. Like I couldn't stop. It was just literally coming out of me. And I was laying down in the grass and I was looking up at the sun and I was like, this is self-love. Like this is what it really feels like. Oh, and it was so good. And literally ever since then, I've been able to love myself so deeply in my body and not care of, the way it looks or the way whatever. And it just helped me take care of myself so much better because I wasn't criticizing myself. I wasn't looking down upon myself. And then now everyone's like, well, Aubrey, you're so confident. I'm like, this shit took work. Like, this is not natural in my life. And it's because I was just so sick and tired of being so insecure in my life. And I just wanted to be happy and I just wanted to love myself. And then when you get there, and there's always a journey, right? I can always love myself even more or whatever, but it's so important to have that foundation and to receive and accept that. And I think that those are my 2 big turning points in my life that really helped me be the person I am today.
Those are big turning points because it's like, oh, I can do something about it, or I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah. I remember like I weighed myself on the scale every day, multiple times a day for like a decade. Like that's how obsessed I was. And I remember, I forgot what NLP technique it is at the moment. I think it was something within the meta programs, chaining certain presuppositions. And I remember my belief was, well, if you're 160 pounds, you're not good enough. And then I switched that day to like, what if I can be 160 pounds and be good enough? And, lo and behold, I went through more thyroid issues in the past years after that, and I got up to like 180 pounds. But even when I was 180, because at 160 pounds, I took on the belief that I can be good enough at that weight. Then even when I was going through some metabolic stuff and I was heavier, I was still like, it's okay that I'm this weight right now. It's totally okay. I love myself anyways. But it was like, it went from the belief, if you're this much, equals not good enough to if you're this much equals always good enough. And you just like switch it.
It's so amazing, those exact experiences where it's just a switch and it's just like, wow, okay, I'm subscribing to this. And that just becomes like your new practice, your new mindset. And those are the moments, I live for those moments.
Yeah.
I love when I personally have them, love it. And I love when I see my clients have it or they'll call and tell me that they have it. Like it's now what I live for. And they happen less and less these days because I'm not in like this rapid transformation. But I am also always asking the universe, I'm like, okay, I'm ready now for a little bit more growth. And I have to understand, and I hope everyone, you might know what I'm saying already, or if not, consider it. But we are constantly creating our reality. We're constantly manifesting. The trick is to understand, are we doing it out of foundation of love or a foundation of fear? Most of us, it's fear because that's kind of how we were raised, whether it was religion, culture, family dynamic, whatever the case may be. But when we start to do it with love, we start to create the life that we want. So that being said, when I ask the universe or when I ask source for more wisdom, I have to be prepared for what I'm going to get because it's going to be problems that I
It
have
won't
to
be wisdom, it'll be an experience that makes you have
be
wisdom.
experienced. Yeah, so it's just like, okay, pay attention to what you're asking the world, the universe for, what you're asking God for. If you're asking for healing, be prepared to cry a lot, to be tired a lot, for people to come in and ruffle your feathers. Those are all the things that you need, and those are the things you're asking for. So the healing journey is worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And there are things that you can do to help you, I wouldn't say get there faster, but help you to get the aha moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So, my last question for you is where are you now? Like, what are some of your most empowering beliefs or helpful ways of thinking that you're experiencing now?
Yeah. I think one of the beliefs that I hold right now that's been really powerful is that I am an alchemist. I've stopped trying to label myself, and I do have to because people ask me for what's my bio, what do I do for work? So I do have to have some titles, but I like to consider myself an alchemist. I'm taking control over my world, my reality. I've created a loving relationship that I wanted. I'm creating this beautiful coaching business that I that I'm growing. I'm an entrepreneur. I have another business. I'm prioritizing my health and wellness, and I wanted my life to be surrounded by health and wellness, and I've created that too. So right now I'm living in California, Newport Beach, which is a blessing because it's so beautiful out here. I really need to go enjoy it more often. But I love what I do right now. So currently I'm working with individuals and groups in offering mind-body transformation. So helping them, starting at the root, figure out how to uncover the source of the anxiety they may be experiencing at the time, anger, depression, insomnia, eating challenges, body dysmorphia, people pleasing, or just genuinely feeling stuck. So they're ready to get back into their career, or they've been in their career for a while, or they're in a relationship, and they just feel the stuckness. They won't move forward, and they're not moving backward. So I help people uncover the root cause of that using rapid transformation therapy, and then we do integration coaching to help make sure those new beliefs that you have, that they stick, and to have the somatic releases that you need, and to bring into your life any tools ranging from EFT, like the emotional freedom technique, or if it's learning NLP, so send them over to Aubrey, or whatever the case may be, in terms of helping them with their integration process. So coaching in Newport Beach right now, and that's me living my best life.
Oh, yeah. How
Yeah.
can we get in touch with you?
So social media is a nice way to stay up to date with, getting tips and tools or event notifications. So I'm Coach Krystal Rose, Crystal with a K, Rose like the flower, Instagram and TikTok. I would suggest also, if you are remotely interested in understanding what root cause therapy is, you don't have to work with me. I just need people to know that that's what to look into as part of your healing journey, and you can decide when and where and how you want to go about it. But if you want to talk a little bit more about root cause therapy, you can go to tryrapidtransformationtherapy.com to book a free session with me, or coachkrystalrose.com.
Amazing. Great
Yeah.
website names.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I think we're going to title the podcast episode The Realm of the Root, shifting
Ooh,
from depression and anxiety
love
to
that.
purpose
Love
and peace.
that. Ooh.
Yay. So thank you so much, Krystal. I'm very grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful, incredibly grateful for your support in my NLP program and what I do. You've referred people over constantly, and I'm just so happy to be connected to somebody who's making such a big impact in your life and the lives of others. So thanks for being here today and having this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thanks for creating the space, and thanks for having me on the podcast. You are amazing.
Woo! All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you too. So glad you are. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.